Power Parsha. This is February 16th, 2021. Folks, we're like almost a year anniversary from this whole beginning of DPP. See, that's how I'm referring it to. I'm not referring to pandemic, not the P word, right? DPP, not pandemic, but 1 year, almost 1 year anniversary of the onset of DPP. And I'm super excited to be studying with you on a daily basis. It is so much fun and pretty awesome. All right, I'm sharing my screen with you. We're ready to roll. Terumah. Okay, so we started the second reading yesterday. We started talking about, we kind of finished the arc. So the Torah portions opens up with God telling Moses, collect some contributions. We got to build this thing. And okay, so the general categories of contributions are laid out. And then, hold on. Let's see who else is joining. Oh, we got the crew, Mark and Matt. All right. So then the Torah segues into a discussion of what should be built. And the first thing that's referred to is, hey, Mark. Hi, Matt. The first thing that's referred to in being built for the Mishkan is the ark, the Aron, the ark of the covenant. The ark of the covenant, or also known as the ark of the testimony. Either way, the ark was a box, gold box, nesting box that housed the tablets, and which is essentially the Torah, had a gold cover on top of it. And from the cover, as you see right here on the screen that I have shared, the cover should have two golden cherubim, also known in the Hebrew as cherubim. I don't know, I guess cherubim sounds better in the English. Cherubim that protrude, angelic figurines, if you will, that protrude from the top, that extend over the ark cover and face each other. I want to mention a few details that we did not cover yesterday due to time constraints. So number one, these angelic figures were hammered out of pure gold, as I did mention yesterday. But what's incredible is the Talmud says that when the Jews were behaving properly, listen to this, when the Jews were behaving properly, the two angelic figures would be facing each other, kind of almost like getting ready for a loving embrace. But when the Jews were not doing what they were supposed to be doing, when they were not doing, quote, the will of God, end quote, that's the way the language of our sages is, when they were not doing what Hashem wanted, then those angelic figurines would actually turn and face away from each other. And I know what you're thinking, right? Battery powered, solar powered, mechanical, electric. How did this work? Answer is obviously miraculous, right? That this gold that was made out of one solid piece of gold that was a cover, and the angels, miraculously, the angels could turn away. And basically, these two angels therefore symbolize God and us. And those are the two figures, if you will. That's the representation. So that means that when we're not doing what we should be doing, it's naturally a situation where there's a distance. And when we are doing what we need to be doing, then there is a closeness. Now, here's the real truth. The real truth is that God never turns his back on us because, first of all, according to Kabbalah, it's impossible, right? Everything that exists is within the divine. So it's not like God can really say, you know what, that's it, you're out. Because that would mean we would be out, which means non-existent anymore. So if we're still here, it means that we're still in this divine embrace from God's perspective. But it's possible for us, at least in our own consciousness, to disconnect or to abandon or to, at the very least, not pay that much attention to God, if you will. And that constitutes a breach. And it's not like it's not a punishment, it's a consequence, right? Like if somebody does something in a relationship that is disrespectful or hurtful to the other, so is there punishment, right? It's like, oh, you did this, therefore there's no extrinsic, I mean, there might be, but it's not really about the extrinsic punishment. It's like an outside punishment. What's the consequence, or what's the negativity? The fact that now there's a strain in the relationship. In other words, what's the problem with doing something disrespectful or harmful to the other? It's that you did something disrespectful and harmful to the other. So you don't need like a secondary, and also there's also going to be, you don't really, the worst part of it is the distance the cold, if you will, that has now crept into that relationship. And so the same thing is true with us and God. And again, it works one way from us. So that's a little bit of insight into the Cherubim, but it also answers a question that you might have been thinking yesterday or might have thought about the Ark in general. And that is, we just had the 10 Commandments. We read about them a few weeks ago. And the 10 Commandments were literally housed in this very box. And in the 10 Commandments, if you recall, it talked about not creating graven images. Remember that one? Don't create any graven images of the heavens above or the earth below. And I explained that it's, well, really not just any images, but images that are meant for worship. And the idea that God does not have an image, God is beyond image. These are fundamentals to monotheism and Judaism. And it's therefore quite shocking that in the Holy of Holies, the holiest space of the temple and the Mishkan, the tabernacle, the portable temple, in the holiest space, the holiest item, the very first mention in the commandments, in the instructions for what to build, the very first item, the holiest item, is an ark, and on its cover are two angelic figures with wings. Are you kidding me? Right? Whatever happened to imageless Judaism? When I say imageless, no logo Judaism, no icons. Maybe that's a better word. It's not iconic. I mean, it's iconic, but not in that way. No icon Judaism. Not about the figures, not about the images. We're meant to worship an invisible God, a God that is reality beyond a specific, set image. So what's the deal with this, with this stuff? It's a good question, and it's been answered in many different ways. A simple answer is, well, the same God that says, don't create images, says, but create this image. So it's not like images inherently are no good. It's only no good when God says not to. In other words, for foreign idol worship. But when it's with God in the temple, God says, make it, so we make it. That's a technical answer. It's true, by the way. It's a true answer, but it's a technical answer, right? The same God that says don't, in general, says do in this case. Okay. But it doesn't satisfy, but why? But based on what I said before, I think that we might offer one perspective, not the only perspective, maybe not the best perspective, but a perspective. And that is that the image of these two angels represent not things that we're worshiping, but represent our relationship with God, direct, straight, face to face, if you will. So one of the angels is us, and one of the angels, one of the depictions is us, and one of the depictions is God. And what's the message? That we're meant to interact face to face directly with God, and that's what those images are symbolic of, our relationship with God. No, in other words, what's wrong with creating an image? It's that you're going to have an intermediary between you and God. But this image on the ark is actually the anti-intermediary image. It's you and it's us and God, direct face to face. That's the symbolism. In other words, it actually supports the whole idea of not having other images, because those other images are things that get in the way. These are not images that get in the way, but rather images that depict the fact that nothing gets in the way except for ourselves. Okay, I hope that makes sense. We have, Donna.
So where do symbols like the Hamsa come into play?
That's a really good question. So Hamsa, I've looked it up in the past. I don't recall the original sources of it. You can probably Google it and find it. I've looked in some, original Jewish texts in the past. I don't have it at the tip of my fingers, but it does have a legitimate Jewish origin. It's not something that's worshipped or deified. The whole question about the ark that I asked, which the commentators discuss, is, it's not just a symbol, it's a symbol in the Holy of Holies on top of the ark. This is where we direct our prayers kind of toward Jerusalem and the temple. This is not that we're worshiping the ark, but it's kind of we're pointing that way. But with the Hamsa, we're not worshiping it. It's a symbol. It's an omen. I think it's an omen for not having the evil eye. So, and again, I don't recall exactly why that symbolism and how that symbolism became and, how it works and what, but it's not deified, if that makes sense. It's kind of
on the wall of Chabad. It's on the outside wall, Hamsa.
On our wall it is?
Yes. That's why I started using it. I didn't even have to ask you because I saw it on the wall.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So is it on the mural? You're talking about the mural
Yes.
outside? Oh,
Yes.
that's funny. Yeah. Okay. Well then for sure it's kosher. No, but
Right.
it's kind of like today. It's kind of like the menorah,
Right.
right? Which is like classic Jewish symbol that has meaning, but it's not worshipped or deified. It's just symbol, a Jewish symbol that evokes, some good stuff. All right.
Ari, I have a quick.
Yeah. Speaking of Hamsa, don't forget Julia Workshop next Monday night. Bonus gift, Hamsa bonus gift.
In
Okay.
France, it's mostly Sephardic.
Yeah. It has Sephardic. It has, because it's mystical, right? Remember, a lot of the mystics, like in the Middle Ages, maybe a little bit later, emerged from Spain, right? From Spanish Jewry, which then migrated eventually because of, expulsions and whatnot, which then migrated to Northern Africa, then to Israel. And that's where your Sephardic community, Morocco and Tunisia and Sfat in Israel, Safed, that's where a lot of these hotbeds of Kabbalah emerged from the immigrants that came from mystical, those that studied mysticism from Spain, which is the Sephardim are from Spanish Jewry.
So there's so common for Muslim, and it's usually,
I think Fatima in their langeslanguages.
Yeah, and usually it's in the jewelry, it's woman when.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of there is again, it's not the research is not fresh in my head. It's been a few years since I've kind of looked through it, but my recollection is it does have other applications and other kind of cultural, societal context, but there is also a Jewish angle on it and a mystical angle as well. Anyway, probably appropriate to look it up again, but I'll put that on the burner of on the to-do list. All right, let's get back inside.
Quick question.
Yeah, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, quick. The seal of the United States has an eagle.
Yes.
And one claw are what olive branches, and the other there's arrows. Right. During wartime, they change the rug. They take it in the Oval Office, and they change the seal too wherever it goes. Where his head, the head of the eagle, instead of looking toward the olive branches, is looking toward the arrows. Wow. And this is not question about the Aaron, the Kodesh. Could there simply have been two lids? One with the cherubim facing each other, and one with facing apart. And the Kohen Gadol said, "Okay, until they get things squared away, we're using the alternate lid." Is that possible?
And listen, anything is possible, but from my understanding of the sources, it says that the angels would actually pivot. I think that's kind of cooler, but I hear what you're saying. I wasn't there, but my understanding of the sources is that it would actually pivot. But I hear you. That's interesting. I didn't know that about the money or the seal. That's interesting.
I just know it's the olive branches. I just know that sometimes this derives from some mysticism someplace. That's why.
Interesting. All right, let's jump into our new discussion. Again, this is second reading, just to show you where we're up to. This is second reading, Terumah, chapter 25, and we're up to verse 23. We've talked about the ark. We finished through verse 22 yesterday, and we just touched on a few other items that I wanted to mention. Let's talk now about what's called the Shulkhan. The Shulkhan, here, and I'm going to highlight the Hebrew, Shulkhan, which literally means table, okay? That was another one of the temple or the Mishkan's items. So there was an ark. Let's talk about the table. And you shall make a table of acacia wood. Remember, they were supposed to donate acacia wood. So far, we've used acacia wood for the ark, the center of the ark, and or the middle box of the ark, and for the poles that were then covered in gold. The table is also made of this acacia wood, 2 cubits its length, 1 cubit its width, and 1.5 cubits its height. All right, so those are your dimensions. And you shall overlay it with pure gold. and you shall make for it a golden crown all around it, which we said yesterday, filigree, something like that, is like kind of a like a pattern, a gold crown pattern around the top part of it. All right, and you shall make for it a frame. All right, so on top of the table, you make a frame, a handbreadth wide all around. You shall make a golden crown for its frame all around. And you shall make for it four golden rings. No, I'm kidding. 4 golden rings. And you shall place the rings on the 4 corners that are on its 4 legs. All right, so basically you have a table with a frame. And what's the frame for, by the way, in case you're wondering? It doesn't mention it here, but it does mention, maybe it does mention here, it does. The frame was to hold the showbread. And think of, this is a very, I don't know, maybe a somewhat crude example. Think of a, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a bread, like a baker's rack, like a, a thing where you put loaves of bread to kind of cool off or whatever, right? You stack bread. So the frame was on top of the table, and the frame had place. There were 2 sides to it, stacked 6 high. They would put the showbread 6 and 6. So 2 stacks of 6 loaves of bread, 12 loaves of showbread that were meant to be held in this frame on top of this table. That was the function of this table. So let's get back inside. Oh, we just spoke about the rings. Why were there rings? Once again, because since this was a portable sanctuary, so you had to move it. You couldn't just throw it on top of a wagon. It was not respectful. It had to be carried by human beings, but it's awkward to kind of carry like this heavy thing made of golden wood. So they put 4 rings, 2 on each side. They put 2 poles, and the Levites, Levium, would carry it on their shoulders when they transported the Mishkan through the desert. Let's talk about the rings. The rings shall be opposite the frame as holders for the poles with which to carry the table. 28, and you shall make the poles once again of acacia wood, and you shall overlay with them with gold, and the table shall be carried with them with these poles. And you shall make its forms. Here we go. Forms means the bread molds, right? Like think of a loaf pan, if you will, right? So the form would be where the bread nests into. Its spoons, there was meant to be some frankincense on the table. So there was bread with some frankincense. So 2 spoons, half pipes, that's for snowboarding, and its supports with which to be cut. That was a joke. And its supports with which it will be covered of pure gold. You shall make them. So basically, the half pipes, what were the half pipes for? I'm assuming that's part of the structure. Let's see if we have a Rashi or 2. Half pipes. They are sort of half tubes, hollow and split along their length. They are similar to the tubes made of gold. 3 tubes were arranged over each bread so that each bread would rest upon those tubes. They would separate one bread from the other so that air would enter between them and the bread would not grow moldy. In Arabic, any hollow thing is called kaswa. See, look at that. We have Arabic now. Look, basically, you were putting loaves of hot bread on this thing. You know what happens when you put a hot loaf into a pan? There's condensation that builds up, and then if you leave it there, what happens? The bread might grow moldy. So there was some sort of system where it was a little bit elevated between each loaf. There were molds, if you will, like not molds and moldy, 2 different things, but there were like bread forms, but there were also some sort of half tubes or pipes that would allow kind of like a baking, when you finish baking cookies and you put it on like one of those little, I don't know, rack things to allow the air to cool off and not, condensate underneath and around it. Anyway, so the loaves were stacked there and they were placed there. I'm toggling Rashi off, so I'm just going to scroll back up. Essentially, this is the function of the table, to hold the bread and to display it. And by the way, let's do the last verse. And you shall place on the table showbread. And it was bread that is displayed before me at all times. And the way that's understood, I probably should have left Rashi on, because Rashi, I'm sure, clarifies it. It was left from week to week. A full week, it was displayed, and then they would bake fresh loaves and swap it out once a week. And there was a miracle that happened, that the bread that was sitting there for a week was still fresh, and it was enjoyed by the next priestly shift that would take over. So every week there was another shift of Kohanim. There were too many priests to all serve at the same time in the temple. There just were too many Kohanim. So what they would do is they would divide them into shifts, and each shift of priests would take a week. So if you were, part of a Kohanic family, so it was kind of done by family. So your family would have, a week in the temple where you guys would serve. And as your shift came in or as it went out, that's when you would enjoy from the showbread. Now let's take a look at Rashi to see if Rashi comments on that last verse about constant. No. Rashi just says that why is it called showbread? It means literally bread of faces, given this appellation because it has faces. No, it wasn't like bread that had a little bit of a smiley face drawn into it. These are bread that kind of was shaped, that it had facets, if you will, or it had different angles to it and edges to it. The number of breads and the order of their stacks are explained in Leviticus, so we're not going to do it right now, but it's explored over there, the details. But this is more about the actual construction of the table as opposed to the actual bread details and how it was displayed. All right, with this, I think we're ready to jump into the third reading, which is going to detail the menorah. All right, here we go. Of course, the menorah is probably, the ark and menorah is probably a toss-up, which is a more famous symbol, but the menorah is pretty famous. I will say, though, that the menorah that we know is the Hanukkah menorah, which is not the same as the Temple Menorah. Different. It's different. So the Hanukkah menorah that we use on Hanukkah is inspired by the Temple Menorah, but it's by no means a replica. The difference is, the fundamental difference, is that the Temple Menorah was only comprised of 7 branches, right? 3 on one side, 3 on the other side, with, I don't know, I can't do this, with 1 in the middle. Whatever. So 3, 3, and 1. 7 branch menorah. Our Chanukiot have 4 and a taller branch in the middle, which is the shamash. So we have 4 mitzvah candles and 1 helper candle. In the menorah, there were no helper candles. It was just 7 mitzvah candles. 3, 3, 1, all the same height, all part of the mitzvah. By the way, I'm going to give you a little bit of Kabbalah about this soon, because 7 is significant. We'll get there in a second. Let's do this together. Exodus chapter 25, verse 31, reading for today. And you shall make a menorah of pure gold. Pure gold. No wood covered with gold. The menorah was meant to be hammered out, 1 piece of gold. As we'll see, the menorah shall be made of hammered work. Hammered work always means 1 piece, not welded, but hammered. Its base and its stem, its goblets, its knobs, and its flowers shall all be 1 piece with it. So this is describing a very ornate golden item that had to be hammered from a single piece of gold, could not be constructed separately and then welded together, had to be hammered from 1 piece. Extremely difficult, extremely complicated artisanship. All right, let's continue. 6 branches. So how was it made? Oh, so we talked about a base. We talked about a stem, which is a center stem. So there was a base and a center stem. Now let's continue. Oh, and of course the design, goblets, knobs, and flowers. And verse 32, 6 branches coming out of its sides. 3 menorah branches from its one side of the center stem, and 3 menorah branches from its second side, the second side of the center stem. So you have a base, a center stem, and 3 coming out from one and from the other, which makes a total of 7 lamps. 3, 3, and the center. Let's get back with the decorations. 3 decorated goblets on one branch, a knob, and a flower. So on each branch, you had 3 goblets, a knob, and a flower. Those are the flourishes on each of the branches. You with me? 3 goblets, a knob, and a flower. That's on one branch. In other words, on one branch, and 3 decorated goblets on one branch, a knob, and a flower. In other words, each and every branch, that's the Torah's way of saying for each branch, do the same thing. For each branch, 3 goblets, a knob, and a flower. So and the same would be for the 6 branches that come out of the menorah. Each one should have the 3 goblets, the knob, and the flower. And on the stem of the menorah, the center stem, shall be 4 decorated goblets, its knobs, and its flowers. So 3, 1, 1, and 4, and then I think 1, 1, knobs and flowers. And a knob under the 2 branches from it, and a knob under the 2 branches from it, and a knob under the 2 branches from it. Do you know what that means, the 2 branches from it? Because at each time when the branches intersect the center stem, remember there's a center stem and then branches that come out of the center stem? So at each point where the branches meet the center stem, underneath it should be a knob. Should be a knob. Does that make sense? Yes? Ish? Right? You have a center stem, and then from the center stem, you have awkward. You have picture a menorah. Oh man, what do I have? I have nothing.
There's a picture in the Chayenu.
In the Chayenu, okay, but I want to show something. Oh, I know how to do this. Ta-ta-da. Let's do whiteboard. Boom, boom, shakalaka. Can you guys see my whiteboard? Yeah, okay, great. I even have a whiteboard pen. I think it's going to work. Look at that. That's center stem and base. Here are your 3 branches. Should have been an engineer or an architect, right? That is your menorah. By the way, in case you're wondering why it looks like that and not rounded.
Never too late.
Sorry? Never too late. All right, listen, a second career. So this is the way the Temple Menorah looked according to Rambam and Rashi. Rashi and Rambam both say that the branches were diagonal, unlike that depiction of the menorah, which is the popular one. The one with you see the one with the curved branches that I just drew? That's the one that's been memorialized on Titus's arch in Rome, under the caption "Judea is captured," and that's what they were like depicting hauling out of Jerusalem. There were many candelabras in the temple other than the holy menorah that was used for the service. So, because they didn't have electricity, so there were many candelabras that were used for light. So just because that's what they took out of the temple doesn't mean that oh, this is supposed to be an eraser. How awkward. Doesn't mean that is exactly what it was. My point is, my point is simply this. Yeah, that works. Okay, well, ignore that little lightning flash. That as the menorah is being described, so you have the decorations. I'm just gonna make decorations. These are all random decorations, right? I'm not being specific here. What the Torah is saying is underneath where the 2 branches meet, there is decorations. You see that? 2 branches meet, underneath it, decoration. 2 branches meet, underneath it, decoration. 2 branches meet. There's 3 places where the 2 branches meet, right? 1, 2, and 3. Does that make sense? Okay, all of that was just simply to express what the Torah is saying. All right, so that's what it is. Verse 35, and a knob under the 2 branches. In other words, the vector, the nexus of those 2 branches, there's a knob under it, and a knob under the 2 branches from it, and a knob under the 2 branches from it. So for the 6 branches that come out of the menorah, right? 6 branches means 2, 2, 2, and under each of those connection points, you do a knob. Their knob and their branches, back inside, verse 36, their knobs and their branches shall all be one piece with it. All of it shall be one hammered mass of pure gold. Intricate, incredibly intricate. I'll tell you a story about that, the level of intricacy in a moment. Let's continue inside for right now. And you shall make its lamps seven lamps in total, right? Three, and one. And he shall kindle, the Kohen shall kindle its lamps so that they shed light toward its face. All of the wicks, they were basically, the lamps were cups within which oil went, and then there was a wick and a flame. They were all meant to point toward the face, which means the center branch. They were made to, like, you know, like if you have a cup, like an oil lamp that you actually put oil inside and you put a wick inside, you can put the wick, you know, there's room for the wick to go. So they would turn the wick toward, of all three sides, toward the middle. And its tongs and its scoops, right? You needed accessories for your menorah. You had to like adjust the wicks, and you had to take out the wicks when they were done, and you had to clean all the, you know, the other tools also shall be of pure gold. So everything should be gold with the menorah, including its utensils and accessories. He shall make it of a talent of pure gold. I don't know exactly how much a talent is and what that actually means as far as amount, but it's an amount of pure gold. It's a very large amount of gold with all these implements. Now see and make according to their pattern, which you are shown on the mountain. See that last line? Now see and make according to their pattern, which you are shown on the mountain. So apparently this was, let's see if there's a Rashi on this. It was very difficult to imagine exactly the way it was supposed to look, not just for us, but even for Moses and for the craftspeople that did it. And so God himself showed a pattern. It doesn't say this by the other pieces. It says it specifically by the menorah. Take a look. See here on the mountain, God says to Moses, the pattern that I am showing you. This tells us, says the Talmud, that Moses had difficulties with the construction of the menorah. Right. Moses had trouble conceiving what exactly it was supposed to look like until the Holy One, blessed be he, showed him a model menorah of fire. So God showed him a menorah shel esh, a menorah of fire. Dad, this is what's supposed to look like. And then he was able to guide the actual builders, the craftspeople who built it. Moses, having seen it, shown by God, was able to craft it. All right, questions. I heard questions, comments thus far. Let me check the chat. Oh, you have. Oh, yeah. So Mark is saying there is another tradition that says that it was so hard,
God had to help.
so difficult to make the menorah that at some point Moshe just threw the gold. When they actually were doing it, they threw the gold into the fire, and out came the menorah. So that is another tradition, that it was so difficult to make. But anyway, it was a beautiful piece. What I'm going to do actually is stop sharing for a moment, and then I'll see if I can pull up Rambam Menorah Gold. Let's see if that comes up as a thing. Nah, you know what? I need my goblets. Where are my goblets at? Okay, let's try this. I'm trying something here. Okay, I'm going to show you a picture. Open image, new tab. Boom, shaka laka, and I'm going to share it with you. This is just for clarity's sake. Tell me if you can see this. You see that?
Yes.
The right side is actually a menorah that Maimonides Rambam himself drew in his own notes. That is the handwriting of Rambam, Maimonides, on the right side. Literally, legit, that's his handwriting on top, and that's his own artistic rendition of the menorah. On the left side is, I guess, some sort of, I don't know, some sort of physical rendition of the Rambam's drawing of the menorah. I'm sure that's not real gold, but it's a golden depiction somewhat of the thing. If you notice, Rambam has, there are cups, the cups are the triangles, the flowers are the half moons, and the knobs are the circles. Do you see that? You see the different flourishes, right? The cups, think of those snow cone cups, right? The triangles are cups. The knobs are the circles, and the flowers are the half of the black and white cookie, right? that's what that is. And it's depicted there. The center branch has some, each branch has some, right? 3:101, as the Torah said. And on the right side, I'm sorry, that was the right side. I'm looking at the drawing. The left side, you can also sort of see it, right? The knobs right under the joints. You have the flowers and the cups. All right. The Rebbe asked, why did Rambam draw the cups upside down? You notice that? Why are the cups upside down? Look at the cups, right? Imagine a snow cone cup or a water dispenser in a doctor's office cup. You know the triangle cups that you can't put down and say, oh my gosh, it's spilled everywhere, right? The triangle cups. If you want to hold a cup to drink, or if you want to hold it up, your base, the triangle part is on the bottom and it opens on the top. So why does Rambam put it upside down? And the Rebbe said, it's a beautiful lesson. The whole point of the menorah was not light, to create more light inside, because God doesn't need light. God is the source of light. It was rather to spread the light outside the temple, which is why, as we've discussed in previous classes, you might remember this from a previous class sometime somewhere, that the windows in the temple were built narrow on the inside and wider on the outside, so that the light in the temples, the spiritual light, the metaphorical light, it's meant to go out. Likewise, a cup that's upright is about filling itself. A cup that's turned over is about sharing it with others. Are you with me on that? So an upright cup is about me, fill me, looking to be filled. A cup that's upside down is a cup that's looking to fill others and to give to others. So yes, we're meant to collect light and to be inspired ourselves, but even more than that, we're meant to share with others and give to others and be of help and of benefit and a blessing to others and indeed the world around us. Okay, so that is a little bit about the Rambam's menorah. Mark, I see you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, I must be dense, because to me these cups are open. I don't see how they're upside down.
Which cups are you looking at? The triangles or the half circles?
No, where the fire would go.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the design cups that are depicted as the triangle.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Those are triangles. Those are little snow cone cup, triangle cup things. So yeah, you're right. The cups, the lamp cups at the top are definitely open. That would be awkward and probably a fire hazard if it was in any other way. We're talking here about the flourishes, the design flourishes that are drawn upside down to signify the idea of sharing the light, giving the light. All right, let's jump back.
Ari, interestingly enough,
yeah,
on the, I emailed you an illustration of the menorah.
Yeah,
and this it follows Maish Choshev, whoever that is. Their cups are not upside down. The decorative cups are not.
Right. The Rebbe said it's an anomaly that Maimonides is doing. Now, whether Maimonides learned that that's the way it was, or Maimonides was signifying on a deeper level that our job is to be givers, I don't know. But Maimonides definitely draws it upside down. Okay, let's finish off. Let's do a little bit. Let's do a little bit of this, of the curtains. All right, and the Mishkan. Let's back Exodus chapter 26, verse number 1. And the Mishkan, the tabernacle, you shall make out of 10 curtains, consisting of twisted fine linen and blue, purple, and crimson wool, a cherubim design of the work of a master weaver, you shall make them. Seems that they depicted also the Cherubim, the cherubim, also in the curtains somehow they included in the color scheme or in the design scheme. The length of one curtain shall be 28 cubits. That's a very large curtain. 28 cubits. If each cubit is about 18 to 24 inches, we're talking about 28 plus 14 is what, 42? At least 42 feet long. And the width of one curtain shall be 4 cubits. The same measure for all the curtains. So they were narrow and very long. 5 of these curtains shall be joined to one another, and the other 5 curtains shall also be joined to one another. And you shall make loops of blue wool on the edge of one curtain that is at the edge of the first set, and you shall do at the edge of the outermost curtain of the second set. All right, sorry. And so shall you do on the edge of the outermost curtain of the second set. You shall make 50 loops on the edge of one curtain, and you shall make 50 loops on the edge of the other curtain. In the second set, the loops shall correspond to one another. In other words, you're making these long curtains, and at the edges, you're putting these loops, and then you're basically attaching them so that you have a series of the curtains that attach one to the other through loops and clasps. And if you're wondering where are the clasps, let's continue. Verse 6, and you shall make 50 golden clasps, and you shall fasten the curtains to one another with the clasps. So you have loops and clasps straight up. So shall the Mishkan become one, right? The curtains, that's how you affix it. Okay. And then you shall make curtains of goat hair for the tent over the Mishkan, for a tent over the Mishkan. So you have some curtains that were made of, what was it made of? Wool, blue wool. No, it was made of twisted fine linen, blue, purple, crimson wool. Okay, a combination. Oh, by the way, linen and wool, ashanda, aye, gewalt. We talked about not mixing wool and linen. In the temple, it was done. But for temple use, yes. But for private use, it's reserved for temple use. Seems like it was a mark of royalty. So not in the Uggs, not in your suit, not in your trousers, but for the temple, it was done.
Do as I say, don't do as I do.
Yeah. And by the way, even the high priest, the Kohen's garments also had some wool and some linen that he wore together. But again, that was the exception. The easy way to understand it is, again, the same one who made the rules made the exception, but of course there's deeper insights on it, which we're not going to cover right now. We have all these curtains that were affixed to one another. And then we have another type of curtains that were made of goat hair for a tent over the Mishkan. You should make 11 of these curtains. Now, how big were these curtains? The length of one curtain of these goat hair curtains shall be 30 cubits, and the width of one curtain, 4 cubits. So the other ones were 28 by 4. These are 30 by 4. The same measure for the 11 curtains. And you shall join the 5 curtains by themselves and the other 6 curtains by themselves. And you shall fold the 6th curtain before the front of the tent. There's really no way to understand this. I mean, we could start sketching it out, but if you see a picture, it all makes sense, but we're reading the description. Imagine if somebody described a skyscraper to you, right? And you had a beam that was 2 by 4. You have to start like generating an image in your head. It's very difficult, but this is what we're doing. All right, and you shall make 50 loops once again for this set of curtains on the edge of one curtain, which is the edge of the first set, and 50 loops on the edge of the outermost curtain, the second set, and you shall make 50 copper clasps. You shall bring the clasp into the loops, and you shall fasten the tent together so that it will become one. And the overhanging excess in the curtains of the tent, half of the extra curtain shall hang over the rear of the Mishkan. And the cubit from here and the cubit from there of the excess in the length of the curtains of the tent, because remember it was 28 for the other ones, and now it's 30, which means you have an extra cubit on each side. Does that make sense what I just said? The other curtains were 28. They were going from side to side over the Mishkan. Now these goat hair ones were 30, which means you have an extra cubit on each side. So what do you do with the overhanging excess? No, I'm sorry. No, that's going to the back. But what about the length of it, or that way? So a cubit from here and a cubit from there of the X and the length of the curtains of the tent shall hang over the sides of the Mishkan from here and from there to cover it. So it would hang over and then extend on the ground 1 cubit on each side. Does that make sense? Or maybe on the walls. Whatever. Either way, it was hanging over 1 cubit. And you shall make a covering for the tent of ram skins, a third type of covering. This one, not of the wool and linen, and not of the goat's hair. This is the ram skins, dyed red, and a covering of tachash skins above. Tachash was that multicolored, I'm going to call it unicorn for just, fun's sake, but that multicolored animal, rare animal that was used for the construction. I'm going to stop sharing and let's see if I can find, I'm going to try to Google Mishkan curtains. Let's see what I can find. Where are we? I want to make sure that I'm showing you a legitimate picture here. All right, listen, if anybody finds a good picture, I see some, I'm sure if you Google Mishkan curtains, you'll see exactly what I'm seeing, but I don't want to share anything unless I know what source it's coming from. Pinterest is not a legit source. I see Chabad.org has something that looks interesting. Okay, all right. We'll all do research and we'll all compare notes tomorrow. That's the plan. All right. That's our homework.
That's
Okay.
our first homework assignment we've gotten.
I know, right? What, you think this is going to be easy? What, DPP after a whole year, it's going to be easy?
Right. We got to step it up. That's right. The next year.
Step it up. So fine, but yeah, it has to be a legitimate source. You have to be very careful because there's a lot of sources. I'm gonna say this carefully. There's a lot of sources out there, especially that dabble in this type of stuff that is Christian, that is Jews for J.
Bible.
So you gotta be very careful that it's from an authentic source. Why do I say authentic versus who cares where it's from? The question is if it's really based on traditional Jewish understanding of the verses, or it's based on some other tradition that is not within our tradition. That's what I'm saying. Find homework, find a good picture. Why not? If you can find all the vessels, so you have to be very careful that it's authentic source. So find an authentic source. That way we can have the pictures up as we go through it. There was once a book published. I forget what it was called. It was so amazing. It was like a coffee table book published by, again, legit source. And it had models of the Mishkan. Somebody a group of team created models and they photographed it. And it was in a beautiful, I don't know if it's still in print or if it's not in print. I forget the name of it. I don't even remember the publisher. Maybe it was Art Scroll or Mesorah or Feldheim or one of these publishers, one of these Jewish publishers. And it was a really beautiful book. With many of the Mishkan's items, there are elements of dispute amongst the commentaries about exactly how it looked. The Talmud even records disputes. Yeah, the Torah gives us the basics of it, but some of the finer details are the subject of dispute. So you're never going to have one, definitive view of the way it looked. As we discussed with the chosha and the breastplate and the jewels, there are many different traditions, even though the Hebrew words are the same, but exactly what that means and how it looked is a subject to a little bit of a variance. So it's never going to be perfect, but if we can find that, if anybody can try to look for that, that would be amazing.
So Rabbi, in my PDFs for the jewelry classes, I only use Chabad.org.
Right. Yeah. I've noticed that. I didnid think did you send the one for the upcoming? I think you did.
Yes. I think it is very good. I have to say.
Oh, awesome. Good.
Yeah. I talk about the gemstones for the first time.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So I haven't looked at it yet. I'm going to look at it hopefully today. But I have noticed that you have used Chabad.org as a primary source, which is good, which is legit. Aish.com, Chabad.org, OU.org, I think. Again, any legitimate Torah source is going to be good. Obviously, there will be some variations, but legitimate Torah sources are what we're looking for this. So if you can find some good images, not today, we'll do it for tomorrow, then let me know. As far as
you said Aish, AISH.com?
AISH. I think it's org or maybe .com. 1 second, let me look for myself.
And then what was the other one? Aish.com?
Let's see if that's it. Yeah, aish.com and ou.org. I mean, that's like the kosher thing, but they have also Torah stuff. They might have some stuff on it, but I just want to see Mishkan picture book. See if I can find that book that I'm referencing. The Mishkan Climate Edition. Maybe. What? Is it that easy? Did I literally just find it in a second? That's fantastic. I found it. It's out of print, but I found it. I mean, it's going back when I was a kid, this thing was out. So, I mean, it's going back a while. I'm going to share the link. It's discontinued, but you can see what I'm talking about. Boom, shakalaka, artscroll.com. If you click on that link that I just sent, it's called the Mishkan Tabernacle Climate Edition. You can click on the cover and you can see on the cover already what it's going to look like. Did anybody have a chance to pull that up and see what I'm talking about? Yes, no?
I see the cover.
Yeah, so if you click on the cover, you see already what it's going to look like. It's the structure and the vessels of the Mishkan.
Okay.
And it goes through, it's a depiction. Again, is it the only way to depict it? No. Is it the 100%, fully accurate to all opinions? No, you can't satisfy all opinions, but it's going to give a pretty solid rendition. Oh, one of the sample pages. Oh, look at that. I love this already.
Oh, they have the Hoshin too. They have the Hoshin.
Yeah, but did you see? Yes. And did you see also what's it called again? The arcs, one of the sample pages. If you click down in sample pages, they show you the 3 boxes of the ark and how they nested one into the other.
Yes.
It's super cool. Friends, this is not bad. This is not bad at all.
A lot of gold.
A lot of gold. They have a compact size. Is that in print?
It's interesting. They're making the Hoshin a lot of purple as well.
There is a lot. You mean the gemstones or the actual thing?
There's a lot of cloth.
The cloth, yeah. Yeah. And again, is that the only opinion? Was it? Yeah, I think it was like blue. I don't know. We would have to look that up.
The apron. The apron.
Yeah, the apron. Yeah, definitely a lot of purple over there. At least that's the way it looks in this one. It looks like the only version that's available is the English edition compact size. It's expensive though, $50. It's a full color, heavy book. It's like a coffee table type style thing. Anyway, although it's a compact version, so it's not actually coffee table size. Nonetheless, it's a cool thing. Yeah, I wish they would make like an online viewer. It looks like they have a DVD, but I think in 2021 we just need the pictures. Sorry, friends, we just need the images. We don't need a DVD. Just upload it somewhere. I'm kidding. I mean, I'm not suggesting it's pirated. I'm just saying, maybe create a website that can be accessed for a few bucks to check this stuff out. All right. Either way, if anybody's listening, that's a suggestion. If the Art Scroll folks are listening, just a thought. Maybe an app. Create an app that you can download for $4.99, and you take a virtual tour of the Mishkan from an authentic source. It would be kind of cool. All right, someone get on that, or not. Either way. All right. Yeah. Good to see everybody. Great to study together. Donna, Mark, Sandrine, Matt, welcome back. And Ray, it is great to see you. Don't forget, tonight we have Journey of the Soul. We have, what else this week? I think it's a regular week this week. And then next week already we have the Purim gemstone workshop. Then we have the holiday coming up next week. A lot of fun stuff happening. And I'm noticing that I have a clip, these bag clips for like snacks, and it's purple, which matches the theme. It's been next to me this whole time. I'm not going to mention that I also have like a pink one or magenta one, but forget that one. The one that's closest to me is this amethyst-like purple, which is fitting the theme apropos to our Purim theme.
And
Matt,
I have that mug from Purim.
Oh,
nice. Was it last year? Or?
Yes. Yes.
Possibly. I don't, you know what? I've lost kind of time is a little bit
Yes.
wonky. It's hard to know anymore. It's hard to
Yes,
know.
I have that.
Yeah, nice. All right, good. Wishing everybody a wonderful day, and we'll see y'all soon.
Thank you,
Take care,
Rabbi.
everybody.
You too.
Bye,
Are you gonna-
guys.
You
Bye.
sending out a link for tonight?
Yes, I'm sending out an email in the next, hopefully, 5 minutes. An
Okay,
email.
thank you.
Yeah, it's the same link as last week. So if you have that, but otherwise, I'm definitely sending out a new email now.
Thank you.
All right,
Okay.
take care. We'll see y'all.